a name whispered with awe in poker halls and muttered with unease in casino boardrooms, a living legend, a master tactician, a man whose stare could fold kings and whose presence alone could tilt the odds. Known around the world as the Tiger Woods of poker, Ivey wasn't just a player, he was a phenomenon. 10 World Series of poker bracelets, tens of millions in tournament winnings. But beyond the trophies and the headlines, Ivey possessed something rarer, an unmatched ability to see what others couldn't. While most stared at the cards, he studied the system. He read the patterns, the dealers, the very rhythm of the game itself. But in 2012, Ivey made a move that shocked even his fiercest rivals. He stepped away from poker, not out of defeat, but to pursue something bolder, something riskier, something far more controversial. It wasn't a robbery, it wasn't a scam, it wasn't the kind of con you see in movies. What followed was a brilliant, calculated operation, conducted not in the shadows, but in plain sight, within the marble walls and velvet tables of two of the world's most prestigious casinos. With nothing but a sharp mind, a flawless memory, and an unexpected ally, Ivey executed what many now call the greatest legal casino heist of all time. And that word, legal, is the key to the entire story. Because no rules were broken, no chips were stolen, no cards were marked. Instead, the heist was crafted from the casino's own arrogance, their own oversights, and their blind trust in a system they thought was unbreakable. Ivey didn't storm the gates, he was invited in. He wore no mask, carried no weapon, and made no threats. He simply did what he had always done. He read the game better than anyone else. And in doing so, he didn't just win millions, he exposed a flaw so small, so subtle, it took the gambling world years to fully understand it. This is the story of how Phil Ivey rewrote the rules of risk, of how one man, and one flaw in the system, shook the foundations of an entire industry. This isn't just about poker, it's about power, psychology, perception. It's about what happens when a game designed to defeat you gets turned inside out, and it all starts here. It all began with a partnership, an unlikely but deadly effective one. Ivey joined forces with Chung Ying Kelly Sun, a gambler from Hong Kong with a mind as sharp as any high-stakes pro. Kelly wasn't a household name like Ivey, but she was feared in gambling circles. Born into wealth, she had a luxurious lifestyle, but a painful personal history. A few years earlier, Kelly was detained in a Las Vegas casino over a debt, and even held in jail. That experience became her turning point. After her release, she made it her mission to get back at casinos legally. She began studying card manufacturing, the psychology of dealers, and anything that could give her an edge. What she found changed everything. Her discovery centered around a flaw so subtle most people would never notice it: asymmetrical card backs. Cards produced by companies like Gemico had patterns printed with microscopic differences. These imperfections occurred during the cutting process and led to a phenomenon known as edge sorting. Some cards had slightly different edges. One side of the back pattern might have more white space, or a stripe might be slightly off-center. To a casual observer, the deck looked uniform, but to Kelly Sun, it was a gold mine of information. But spotting edge flaws wasn't enough. To exploit this in a live casino, you needed a specific set of conditions, and more importantly, leverage. That's where Phil Ivey came in. He was a celebrity in gambling, a legend, and casinos bent over backward to keep him happy. Using Ivey's influence, the duo crafted a strategy that required precise execution. They would request a specific brand of cards, Gemico, a Mandarin-speaking dealer for Kelly to talk to, and a continuous automatic shuffler. Most critically, they'd ask the dealer to rotate certain lucky cards 180 degrees. The rotation wasn't just superstition, it was essential to separating high-value cards from low ones, based on the flawed edge. The beauty of the plan was in its simplicity. No marked cards, no collusion with the dealer, no sleight of hand, just careful observation and calculated betting. Ivey and Kelly didn't try to win every hand, they waited for patterns. Once they had enough high cards rotated and sorted, they could read the backs and know which cards to bet big on. In Baccarat, where the difference between a 6 and an 8 can be everything, this knowledge was devastating. Their first major score was at Crockfords Casino in London. Over 2 nights, Ivey turned £1 million into £7.7 million. But when he asked the casino to wire the money to Las Vegas, Crockfords hesitated. Suspicion turned into an investigation. When casino surveillance footage was reviewed, They realized the subtle rotations and unusual betting behavior matched reports of edge sorting. Instead of paying Ivey, the casino launched a legal battle. Ivey fought back. He argued that everything he did was based on skill and observation, and the casino had agreed to all his requests. But the court wasn't convinced. In a landmark decision, the UK Supreme Court ruled that Ivey had acted dishonestly, even if he hadn't done anything illegal. They drew a line between technical legality and honest play, a vague but powerful interpretation that shifted casino law. But what happened at Crockfords wasn't an isolated case. Months earlier, Ivey and Son had used the exact same edge sorting technique at Borgata Casino in Atlantic City. Over several sessions, they won close to $10 million. Again, they used Gemico cards, made the same requests, and manipulated the dealer into rotating the cards for luck. And again, they weren't caught at the time. It was only after the Crockfords case made headlines that Borgata launched their own legal review and realized the same technique been used. This time, the outcome was even worse for Ivey. In 2016, a US judge ruled that while edge sorting wasn't criminal, it was against the implied rules of the game. The court ordered Ivey to pay back the full amount won. Borgata even went after his winnings from poker tournaments to reclaim their losses. To many observers, the case wasn't about cheating, it was about exposure. Casinos hated that someone had found a weakness in their system and used it legally. Ivey and Son never touched the cards, they didn't bribe or lie. They simply observed and took advantage of flaws the casino itself had failed to address. The backlash was swift. Casinos across the world reviewed their card suppliers, shuffled more frequently, and updated rules about player requests. Gemico, the card manufacturer, faced lawsuits as well. The casino industry realized that the tiniest oversight, a misprinted card back, could cost them millions. Meanwhile, Phil Ivey became both a cautionary tale and a legend. Among gamblers, he was respected for thinking outside the box. His calm demeanor at the table, combined with surgical precision, made him a mythic figure. He never apologized. In interviews, he stood by his actions, stating, "If I'm playing by the rules set by the casino, and I win, how is that cheating?" Kelly Son, often called the Baccarat Queen, gained her own fame. Her story, a woman wronged by the system, who fought back using intelligence, was optioned for a Hollywood film. She became a symbol of defiance in a world that rarely gives power to the player. The Ivey-Kelly saga forced a broader conversation in the gambling world. What does it mean to cheat? Is exploiting a system's weakness unethical, even when done legally? Do casinos reserve the right to cry foul, only when they lose? In the end, Phil Ivey didn't rob a casino, he didn't hack a system, or use tricks. He used vision, insight, and psychology. And that's what makes this story unforgettable. It wasn't just a legal heist, it was a masterclass in turning the casino's arrogance against itself. He never raised his voice, never bent the rules, he just bent the odds. Where others saw cards, he saw patterns. Where casinos saw luck, he saw logic. Phil Ivey didn't cheat the system, he understood it better than anyone else. Every flick of the card was a quiet rebellion. Every win was a whisper against a billion-dollar machine. He wasn't the villain, he was the glitch. The man who proved that fairness isn't guaranteed, it's engineered. And when the dust settled, one thing became clear. You don't need to break the rules to break the game, you just need to read between the lines. This case will be studied for years, not just in law schools, but in business, psychology, and game theory. Because sometimes, the smartest way to beat the system is to play by the rules better than anyone else.